Alright, let us begin. Hello everyone and welcome to BHC Studios. Today I thought we would talk about Leica's ecosystem, and specifically for those of you that are thinking about getting into Leica, you want to know which Leica camera is the best camera for you. And it'll be a different answer for different people based on what you're looking for, what your budget is, how much experience you have in photography. I will go over which one is probably the best one for you, and so let's start the video now. To begin, let's talk about the three pillars of Leica, and that's what Leica calls them, the three main camera lines that they currently have. And so right in the middle, we do have the flagship line that I would like to think of as a flagship, which is the M series. It's been around since 1954, since the original film M3, and then over the years, M2, M4, M5, M6, M7 here, and then the MP, MA, and then the reissue of the M6. So we're going back 70 years. In fact, almost to the day, it's been 70 years since the launch of the original M3 and the M mount. And so it makes sense for a lot of people who want to buy their first Leica, it is the M. However, I've known people who have shot probably SLRs and mirrorless cameras with EVFs for most of their photography, and even like really experienced photographers, and they love like the mystery and the romance of shooting rangefinder, but as soon as they buy a digital M, they realize it's not for them. So this is not for everyone. So I would recommend the M series, either film or digital, but actually in a way, if you really want to try an M, I say start with film because you can buy them a lot cheaper. If you can find like an M4P or M42 is probably like the cheapest, or the M3. So we're talking between maybe 1,500 to 2,000 US for a body. Even cheaper if you can find someone who's just wants to sell it at a good price. But you know, you get into that. Of course, film is not cheap either, but just shooting with the rangefinder style and see if it's something you can get used to. And so that's the one caveat I have. But if you're already shooting with the film M or just a film rangefinder camera, and so you already know yourself, hey, I love shooting rangefinder, then by all means going into a digital M series or a modern M body is the right choice. But you know, be aware about the rangefinder shooting experience. It's very different. It's like when it comes to cars, maybe like driving a Jeep or maybe driving a two-seater convertible and you're coming from a minivan or an SUV. It's not like one's better than the other, but you know, it's a really stripped down form of photography. All manual focus lenses. You're not seeing through the lens, other than if you add an EVF or you're using the back LCD on the new modern digital M's. So you have to kind of imagine a shot. So it's a very different type of photography. I love shooting with film M's, and I love shooting with rangefinder cameras, so this makes a lot of sense for me, but not for everyone. So this one here, the M, is, to me, it's the center pillar of the three pillars from Leica. Now the other pillar is the Q system here, the Q3, and with the Q series, now it's kind of technically a series because there is now the Q3, which is what this one here is, and the Q343. And the reason why a lot of people like the Q is because it is all in one. And so who is this camera for? Well, first of all, you need some money to buy. So modern Qs. So the Q3, this one right here, 28mm f1.7, $6,300 US. So this camera is not cheap. And so if you have the money and you think you would like to try a digital M and you don't want to be fiddling with lenses, you want something all in one, you want autofocus, this has macro, it has an EVF, the newer Qs have the articulating screen. This is a lot of fun to play with. And so if you can afford it, great. And then now there's a new Q343, so it has a 43mm f2, so it's a Summicron apochromatic lens. So that one is $6,900. You're paying $600 more for that. So now we're talking some serious money. And so if you can afford it and you want an all-in-one camera, basically comes down to focal length. Do you want 28 or 43? I personally would recommend a 28 because there's 60 megapixels, and sometimes you're just trying to do like group shots of a bunch of friends or something like that, or you're doing landscape photography. 43 is a little bit too punched in. The field of view is a little bit narrow. If you want a 43, you could crop this in, right, to a 43mm equivalent with 60 megapixels. So I personally would rather go wide. I'm a 28 shooter anyways. As you can tell, there's my favorite Summicron there. But I think a lot of people who are kind of already into photography, they probably would prefer the Q343, but it'd be more limiting. It's basically 43 mil, so it's close to kind of a standard field of view, and then you can punch in up to whatever you want to punch into. So I think that's actually a little bit more limiting. This is more all around, but a lot of people might not like the 28 mil field of view. So again, if you got the money, go and spend the $6,300 on a Q3 or the $6,900 on the Q343. Both of them are currently on back order at B&H. All right, so let's just put this down here. Now the last pillar of the Leica ecosystem is the SL right here. Now this is the SL2, not the latest SL3. I had a good chance to test it back in the spring when I went to Leica, but this is the SL2 is on loan from Camera West. So thank you Ben and Sean and the rest of the team for letting me use this on a long term as I use it as one of my main workhorses. So I would recommend the SL system for anyone who is coming from another mirrorless system. So if you're coming from Sony, come from Canon, Nikon, maybe you're shooting with Fujifilm X series and you want to move up the full frame. So you're thinking, well, maybe the SL will be the right camera for me. I think it's a good start because first of all, it has an EVF, a high resolution EVF. All three of them have. This one is still really good, the SL2. The SL3 has a lot of bells and whistles like an articulating screen, but I think the right balance between the SL, SL2 and the SL3 is the SL2 because you can get them at a really good price. And so I'll leave links down below to my friends over at Camera West. They have quite a few in stock, including some that are sort of new in box, or like I think it's called open box. So it'll come with an actual Leica warranty, as well as those that are pre-owned, but they're in really good condition. Prices range like an open box from $3,500 to like pre-owned from $2,600 to $3,000. And so a new SL3 right now is $7,000. So even a open box SL2 like the silver one with a full Leica warranty is half the price of a brand new SL3. And if you're kind of on the fence of like, should I get into Leica or not, I think it's a good way to start buying a pre-owned SL. So I would highly recommend this. The beauty of the SL2 is it's a mirrorless camera, right? So it's part of the L-mount Alliance. Actually, Leica started the L-mount Alliance, and the big players are basically Leica, Panasonic, Sigma, Blackmagic, and DJI, and there's other smaller manufacturers that are joining it. And so, but let's say you really want to get into Leica, like you want your first Leica. If you already have a mirrorless camera, especially if you already have a Panasonic full-frame mirrorless, well then you already are using the L mount. So you can use autofocus lens. So right here is the 35 Apo. Look how big and honking this lens here is, but it is an apochromatic lens, super sharp. It is one of the sharpest lenses I've ever tested. Autofocus is okay, especially on a contrast detect only body on the SL2, but in terms of IQ, amazing IQ. But as well, I think the Sigma lenses are fantastic as well. Here is the Sigma 24-70 f2.8 and made in Japan, really good quality. Highly recommend the Sigma lenses as well as the Panasonic lenses. But for me, the secret weapon of the entire SL system is the fact that you can put M-mount lenses on here. Now, to be fair, you could put M-mount lenses on a Sony or a Nikon or a Canon mirrorless with adapters as well. But again, this is for people who want to get into the Leica ecosystem. I think if you go either M or you go SL, you should still buy a collection of M-mount lenses. M-mount's been around since 1954, so it's a 70-year-old mount. And if you include the Leica thread mount with the adapter, we're talking like 100 years of lens history. And multiple manufacturers from Nikon, Canon, Minolta, Konica, Contax, a lot of manufacturers have made M-mount lenses, as well as a lot of conversions. So a lot of cine glass has been converted to M-mount. It's like Canoptic, Dallmeyer, Angino have been converted to M-mount. So you have 70 plus years of history of lenses, and if you love lenses with lots of character, you could basically get an M-mount adapter. So let's put one on here. This is one of my favorite ones. This is the Light Lens Lab, and so I highly recommend this one. I have a separate video coming out on it, but the Light Lens Lab has a helicoid. And helicoid, what that means is that it will, if you look at it carefully here, see, maybe it's hard to see, but it slightly, the flange moves forward, so it allows for macro focusing. But there is infinity lock, so This is my favorite lens, the 28 Summicron, which most Leica M mount lenses, other than the modern ones, stops at 0.7 meters. So 70 centimeters is the minimum focus. But with this helicoid, you go to minimum, and then you get it out of infinity. So when it is on, you still have infinity focus, which is great. Some helicoids, you actually lose infinity. With this light lens lab, you do not. But at minimum, 0.7. Then you activate the helicoid, and now you can move even closer. So from my tests, you get to like 0.35 or 0.3, so 40 centimeters closer. So now actually I could do product photography, I could do really close-up kind of portrait photography, exaggerated because it's 28 millimeter. Highly recommend the light lens lab, but Leica also makes their own. And so, like I tell a lot of people, if you want to get into Leica interchangeable lens camera system and you try to choose between M or SL, either way, I recommend start collecting M mount lenses. You won't lose money on them if you know how to buy them. You know which ones are the ones that people really like to use. Multiple legacy manufacturers, but as well as modern ones. Light Lens Lab makes their own vintage replica lenses. Other brands like TT Artisan, 7 Artisan, lots of brands make M mount lenses. It is the most valuable mount currently existing amongst all manufacturers because it's sort of become a universal mount. Even if you shoot with Sony or Canon or Nikon or Fujifilm, even Fujifilm makes an actual M to X series adapter, an official one, because they realize a lot of people want to use vintage M mount lenses on their Fujifilm X series cameras, and so shows you how valuable the M mount is. So I highly recommend to do it this way here. Is sure, buy a Sigma, buy a Leica autofocus lens when you need autofocus, but when you want to play around, you buy this adapter, put on an M mount lens. This EVF is beautiful. You can punch in, you can easily manually focus, punch back out, take your photos. It's a really great option. And then if you do end up liking the SL system and you want to buy an M, guess what? You already have the lenses for it. And so this is a really great compromise, and I'm really enjoying shooting with the SL. So just a quick review. We have the M, we have the Q, and we have the SL. But we have an extra camera here, right here. The D-Lux. And so the D-Lux, according to Leica, is not part of their main 3 pillars, but it is an important camera because it is a gateway camera into the Leica ecosystem. And Leica, this is the 8th iteration. So there was a D-Lux, the original one, I'm not sure if they even called it a D-Lux 1. It came out in 2003. So the D-Lux series is actually older than the SL or the Q. It's been around a lot longer. It's been around for over 20 years. This is the 8th iteration, but this is the most important of the D-Lux series because it doesn't have a sister Panasonic camera. Even the previous D-Lux 7, it still used the Panasonic proprietary RAW files. This has finally got DNG. I have a separate video on the D-Lux 8, so go check that out. I go into a lot about the history of the D-Lux, what's changed, what hasn't changed, but this is a great gateway camera. And I think for those of you that are new to photography, maybe your first camera is a smartphone, and you want to kind of maybe move up to something a little bit nicer. Obviously, you can go Ricoh GR, you can go Sony RX100 series, you can go Fujifilm X100, but you kind of want Leica, right? You want a red dot, you love the ecosystem, or you want to buy into the ecosystem. The UI is great. Well, this really feels like Leica. If you shot with a Q or an SL or even a modern M, and then you go to a D-Lux 8, you can see here the main menu screen looks identical. And then you go into the menus, identical to all the other Leicas. And so this it feels like a real true Leica, although not part of the 3 pillars. I think it's really important, and if you don't want to spend $6,300, $6,900 just to experiment to see if you want to get into Leica, I think this is a great gateway camera. A lot of YouTubers, I know a lot of them never even looked at the D-Lux series until the D-Lux 8, and a lot of them actually say, hey, they had a lot of fun. Back in 2008, I bought a Panasonic LX3, and the sister camera was the D-Lux 4, so they're pretty much the same other than Leica styling, and I love that camera. You guys know I love point and shoot cameras. I've shot Ricoh GR since 1998 from the film days. I still shoot GR. I love the X100 series. I like compact, small, carry-aroundable cameras that feel like an extension of myself, and so having a point and shoot with a 24-70 f1.7 to f2.8 zoom lens, micro four thirds sensor, 17 megapixels, this actually packs way above its weight class. especially with ISO performance. I'm gonna have a shooting review on this, but I had a great time shooting with this all over Italy. It's light, it's compact, and again, it's light on the bank. And if you look at the prices of the D-Lux 7, people are still asking like $1,200 to $1,500 for the used D-Lux 7, and this is the better camera. So if you can get a hold of a D-Lux 8, it's probably one of the cheapest, I think it is the cheapest Leica, official Leica camera that you can buy from Leica. So this is a great gateway camera into the rest of the ecosystem. But if you already are in Leica ecosystem, you know, if you have an M series or an SL series, I still think this is a pretty good deal. But again, this video is really for someone who's kind of getting into Leica. The D-Lux 8 is a great gateway into the Leica ecosystem. So highly recommend if you can get one of these things new. In fact, of all these Leicas, let me just put this down here. Of all these Leicas, I think the D-Lux 8 is still backordered. The SL3 was backordered. I'm not sure if it still is. The Film M's are still difficult to get. Oftentimes they're backordered. I think the M6 is currently backordered. And I think the Q3 and the Q343 are also backordered. But call Camera West, call any of the Leica stores, B&H, see if any of them have them in stock, but they're very difficult to find. And so that's why I think that for your first entrance into Leica, it actually is a really good option to buy them used. And so other than D-Lux 7, like I said, I think that people are asking too much for it. Buy a Q2. You can buy them used for about $4,000, so you save over $2,000 from buying a new one. The Q2 has the same sensor as the SL2, 47 megapixels. The new 60 megapixel sensor is technically better, but I actually like the look of that 47 megapixel sensor, as well as the digital M. You can start with the M8, M8.2, M9, M240, and right now I think kind of like the sweet spot is an M10. You can buy them for about maybe $4,600 to about $5,000 US, depending on which model, because there's the M10, there's the M10D, M10P, M10 monochrome, as well as the M10R, which I have here. This is a 40 megapixel sensor, so it's very unique. It's only used on 2 cameras, and the color version is only on 1 camera. So the other one that used 40 megapixels is the M10 monochrome. It's a 40 megapixel, but no color filter array. And then you have this one here with a color filter array. So you have a really unique look. Again, technically the 60 megapixel sensor on the new M11s is a better sensor, but I kind of like the look of this one, and you save quite a bit of money if you can buy, especially the M10R. When I was at Leica, a lot of the employees had an M10R, and so I highly recommend the M10R as an option instead of buying an M11 series. There's quirks to this camera. I have, again, separate videos on this one. You could take a look at it, and if you want me to do a kind of another in-depth video of the M10R compared to an M11, I can do it, but this is my personal copy. I enjoy it. In fact, let's just kind of go over these cameras here. So this one here is on loan, the 35 apochromatic M11P. So thank you Leica Global in Germany for loaning this to me. This one here is mine, the M7. I enjoy shooting with this. SL2 on loan from Camera West. The Q3 is the local Leica reps demo copy, so thank you Eric for loaning this to me. The 35 Apo SL is on loan from Camera West. And this M4 is mine, also used from Camera West. And so I call myself a second adopter. I think actually Ben from Camera West said that to me. You know, there's the first adopters. Not that we didn't want to be first adopters, they're just quite a bit more expensive. But if you want to be second adopters, you can find really great prices. And so I always recommend Camera West. I mean, I have the opportunity to work with them, but they're a really great crew. Go to their website. There's weekly pre-owned drops, and a lot of their clients are kind of collectors, so a lot of really cool stuff comes in. I think every Friday is when they do their drops. They call them the pre-owned drops. But if you sign up for their mailing list, you get 2 extra days. I think Wednesday or maybe late Tuesday night, they actually will send an email out to those on the mailing list, and you have early access. And by the time Friday rolls out, if there's like a Konica Hexar RF or something really cool that shows up, like a Contax T2 or like a Mini Lux or an R6.2, by the time Friday rolls around, the camera is gone. And so I snapped this up really quickly. Really great condition M4. M10R, I don't think they currently have one, but again, keep an eye out. This 50 collapsible Elmar M. So this is a reissue version, but not 6-bit. Also very difficult to get. And so keep an eye on their website. I'll leave a link down below. It's not an affiliate link, but it just lets Camera West know that I sent people their way. And so use that link. And those of you wondering, oh, what's that box on the top of your M4? This is a Kex light meter because the M4 is a meterless. It was their last regular production camera line that didn't have meters, and after that the M5 and then the reissue cameras, and other than like the MA, the rest of them all had meters. And so you kind of have to put something on. I really like the Kex meter, but there's something else coming out. Keep an eye out, but looks handsome, comes in silver or black. My overview of the 3 pillars plus the D-Lux 8. I think what you see here on the table or whatever you can find used, you can enter into the Leica ecosystem as cheaply, like if you want to go back to a D-Lux 4, which actually was the Panasonic LX3, D-Lux 4, you could probably pick it up for maybe $200-$300 used on eBay. Or if you want to get into a film M, you can go get an M3, get an M2, get an M4P, M42. They're all going to be kind of anywhere between $1,200 to $2,000. Reasonably priced, and then you can buy Voigtlander or other like TT Artisan lenses as a great gateway into the Leica ecosystem. I can even do another video about like what are the best entry-level Leica M mount lenses made by Leica versus aftermarket lenses, and see, you know, which one's best for you. So in review, if you're new to photography, you want to buy your first sort of all-in-one camera, if you want to start at a budget level, D-Lux 8, I think that is the best option for anyone kind of getting into the Leica ecosystem. $1,600 US, difficult to find. I don't recommend finding a D-Lux 7 used. $1,200 to $1,500 used. I think it's a little bit overpriced. I think the updates are worth, I mean, if you could buy a D-Lux 7 for under $1,000, go for it. But I still think the D-Lux 8 is worth it. It basically acts like a mini Q2. If you have a little bit more money and you don't want to play with interchangeable lenses, then get a Q3, $6,300 for the regular Q3, $6,900 for the Q3 4.3. I still think the Q3 is the better option because sometimes you do want to get a wider shot. You're doing landscape, you're doing a family portrait group shot. Leaf shutter, actually both these have leaf shutters, so you can flash sync to high sync, so it's easy to do flash photography, kind of group pictures and stuff like that. The D-Lux 8 actually does come with its own little flash. But again, I prefer the 28, but I think a lot of people, if you aren't new to photography and you don't like wide angle, then you have the option of the Q343. For those of you coming from mirrorless, coming from Sony, maybe a lot of you Sony shooters already have M mount lenses. I know quite a few of my friends who are Sony shooters but adapt M mount lenses, and that's great. I think an SL is a great start, and an SL2 is a really good start. Again, go to Camera West, they have a lot in stock, used SL2s in all, like the silver finish and the regular finish, the black finish here, from open box with full warranty to really good condition, pre-owned, ranging anywhere from $2,600 to $3,000. And so this is a really good option for someone who wants the flexibility of autofocus as well as being able to put M mount lenses. And then when you do decide to go M mount, then you have M mount lenses that you can use interchangeably. And then finally you have the M mount digital cameras right here, the M11P, but you can get the regular M11 or any of the M10s. So again, Camera West, they have great stock on the M10s, good start. And then if you really want to get into M but don't want to spend that kind of money, you can easily find a used. And if you think about it, these three, right? Imagine you have a digital M, a film M, and you have an SL. You can use the same lenses all around. So it really creates this beautiful ecosystem, same manufacturer, same lenses, used in all three different bodies, film, digital rangefinder, and mirrorless. Retain the same kind of character of your favorite lens, like my 28 Summicron. Get the same sort of character on film, on digital, and on mirrorless. But again, don't forget to put into factor in the price of lenses. But to me, they are a great investment. And so there you go. Those are the three pillars plus the D-Lux 8 suggestions for anyone who wants to get into the Leica ecosystems. Put your comments down below what you think. If you already are in the Leica ecosystem, let me know and let others know who want to get into the Leica ecosystem. Which camera do you think? But I think it really comes down to budget, experience, what you want to get out of Leicas. But a lot of you guys know they are a little bit more expensive than most camera manufacturers. But I think there's a reason for that, right? And I think that's why a lot of people kind of want their first Leica. But once you get into the ecosystem, it's a lot of fun. You don't lose a lot of money, especially on the film, and oftentimes you can get either the same or more money, and that includes the lenses if you buy the lens correctly. But once you get into it, you probably end up getting into all of these cameras. If you can find them pre-owned, Camera West, links down below. Thanks for watching and happy shooting. All right, let's do it. Peace.